Vicente Gonzalez. I wonder if you can tell us what you saw when you went to that camp yesterday.
Well, it's a warehouse. This is a detention center. It's a 75,000 square foot warehouse with hurricane fence rooms that are built out for one section is for men, the other section is for women. We have young children in one area, then adolescents, then adults, and it's kind of divided up that way. And I mean, there's not a single smile in the room. These folks have come in through a very long trek to get here. It's unfortunate. I'm a law and order border congressman. I believe we should have good immigration policy that should be strictly upheld. However, I have a huge issue, and I think most Americans do, with the separating of children from their parents. I think we need to have a more dignified way of dealing with it. This is not the America the world knows and loves, and I think this policy should stop now.
I mean, Scottie, Nell, Hughes, I wonder whether it isn't a bad look, this, for the United States. I mean, there's a case of Elsa Enrique, a Guatemalan, who came with her 8-year-old son, Anthony. The son was detained. She was deported. She is now separated from her son back in her home country and really has completely lost contact with her own 8-year-old. I mean, what kind of defence can one make of that?
Well, I have to ask her, why did she choose to enter...
Sorry,
well, why did she choose to enter this country illegally? We have 328 ports in the United States, many of them along our southern border, that any of these folks who are legitimately seeking asylum can go to. Their families can stay together and go through the process to come into this country out of fear for their homelands. But unfortunately, we have these families choosing to be separated by trying to go across our borders illegally, and this is what is going on. We have a major problem in the United States with child trafficking, with drugs, with the increase of gang crime, with MS-13 in the major cities. We have to do something to protect American citizens, and this is why we're seeing this sort of zero-tolerance policy be enforced.
Congressman, yeah, go ahead.
At this point, we're dealing with a symptom. Yeah, we're dealing with a symptom, and we're dealing with the result of a failed American policy. This is something we should have been dealing with for decades and investing and boosting up those economies in Central America and finding safety for them at home to incentivize them not to come to our borders. But now, because of our failed policy, we're dealing with it at our borders, and we need to do it in a humane manner. This is the United States of America. This is not the Soviet Union or some other country in the world. We should have a more dignified manner of dealing with refugees and people who come here in this situation. And this is an embarrassment in front of the world, and I think it's a real blemish, and we'll look back on this historically as a real shame on our country. We need to stop it. We need to stop it now, and I think the only person who has the power to do this, the ability, is the President, Donald Trump, and the Attorney General. And I advise that they follow the same policy that President Bush followed, and the same policy that Obama and even, as far as you go back, Ronald Reagan, you never saw separation of families.
Let me put that, Congressman, let me put that to Scottie, Nell, Hughes. You are basically using children as a way of teaching the adults a lesson. Don't bring your kids here because we're going to punish you by separating you from them, and that's punishing the child to teach the adult a lesson, isn't it?
But it's exactly the opposite. It's the Democrats in Congress who are using the children to make this a political issue today. This is their last-ditch effort to try to make comprehensive immigration reform happen, and it's not. They want the president to cave because of the pressure and to sign executive orders, which they know will disenfranchise President Trump's base, guaranteeing Republicans not to show up at the polls in November, and Democrats possibly securing leadership in both the House. The ones that are using the children are the Democrats. They're refusing to come to the tables, and like I said, if you want to come here legitimately seeking asylum from what's going on in your country, you can do that. There are lots of ways to do it, lots of options too. These are folks that for one reason or the other does not want the American government to know why they're coming in, whether it's because of illegal activities they themselves or whether these are not their children. For some reason, they're choosing to be illegal. There is a legal reason.
Briefly, Congressman. Go ahead, Congressman.
This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. This is an American issue. We have a Republican-controlled Congress, a Republican-controlled Senate, and a Republican-controlled White House. So how could you turn this into blame it on Democrats? It's ridiculous. Is this a policy that came out of this? Came out of this administration.
Sorry,
it's as simple as that. Other past administrations didn't do this. It's never happened in the history of this country.
Quick one, Scottie. Go on.
Absolutely, that is completely wrong. This started majorly underneath the Obama administration when you did have thousands upon families separated.
There's never been separation.
For some reason, Democrats never wanted to show this story because they knew it worked against their narrative. What this is all about is politics. It's not for solving the children, and it's the Democrats who refuse to come to the table. Do your job, Congressman.
Lies.
Enough.
That's real fake news right there.
Congressman, I want to ask you one difficult question, because I think there is a difficult question. And it's a question faced by European governments, the Italians, the Germans are all facing this, which is how do you have a humane policy that doesn't have a pull factor and say, you know, if you're nice to the children, then migrants use children to get in, or a lot of migrants will do that. Now, do you recognise that as a problem, and what do you do about it, briefly?
Well, I recognize any kind of migration, mass migration, refugee crisis as a problem anywhere in the world. What I think we need to be doing, though, is getting to the root of the problem. Right now, we're trying to put a Band-Aid on it. This is a symptom. This is a result of failed American policy in Central America. We should be down there boosting their economies, incentivizing folks to stay home, find ways to gain employment, and bring security on the ground in El Salvador and Honduras, and to some extent Guatemala.
Right.
Those three countries are the only countries that we have this issue with in Central America. We need to be finding out why we're having this issue.
Sorting out Central America is probably beyond our time here. Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.